The first type is front desk receptionists. Let's kind of visualize these different types of gatekeepers. And the reason why this is important is because it can help you when you're talking to a gatekeeper and you're trying to figure out how to deal with them. It can be good to figure out what type of gatekeeper this is. That may impact what you do and how you approach it. So let's try to stop and think about and visualize what a front desk receptionist is doing and what their day is like. And the reality is that this person lives and works in a very high level of chaotic environment. So think about what they're doing. They're sitting at a desk, probably in a lobby of an office, and they're dealing with people, visitors walking in and out, employees also walking in and out, and sometimes needing stuff, people delivering packages that they have to sign for, and all this chaos is going on. And then the phone is ringing that they have to answer, and that's your call coming in. So you need to kind of realize that these are those people that they put you on hold in the middle of your sentence and whatnot. Regarding the knowledge that they have in their head, this is an important thing to start thinking about with gatekeepers, is that a lot of gatekeepers have very valuable knowledge. So you want to try to access that knowledge when you can. Front desk receptionists will have a medium level of knowledge about the organization. A lot of times they'll know who does what in terms of titles and whatnot. So if you want to try to figure out who you need to speak with, maybe in a case where you only have a title, they're a decent resource to get pointed in the right direction. These individuals will typically have a very high level focus on trying to screen you out, though. You got to anticipate a decent level of defense and blocking from these people. These are the type of individuals where they're instructed to keep you out, and if you get let in, they actually can look bad. So going back to the conflicting interests, if you can't ever get into companies, you look bad as a salesperson. If they let everybody in, they look bad as a gatekeeper or receptionist. So they're going to really do a pretty high job and high effort of screening you out. And that's the front desk receptionist. The next type of gatekeeper are the switchboard operators, and these are individuals that are in a little less of a chaotic environment. If you want to try to visualize what these individuals look like, they typically are only in a room answering the phone in like maybe a call center type environment. So these are people who are just directing calls and answering calls, and they aren't dealing with people walking in front of them, checking in and whatnot. So it's a little less chaotic. These are typically people that you will encounter at larger organizations. Now, these individuals typically have a very limited knowledge of the organization structure. Their knowledge is pretty much aligned with what is accessed in their company directory that they can access through their computer. That's pretty much most of the information that they have access to, and that's not to say that they'll share that openly, but a lot of times they will, because you got to remember their job is less about keeping you out and running the operation of front desk, and more about just sort of routing calls. So they actually have sort of a less emphasis on screening. And you'll notice this when you talk to these individuals. And sometimes, if you get the right one or you're calling into the right company, you could get them to sort of dig around in their company directory database, employee database, and give you contacts, and sometimes be pretty liberal with how they handle that. The next type of gatekeepers are executive assistants. These are people that aren't at the front desk. Sometimes they'll go fill in for receptionists at the front desk when the receptionist goes to lunch, but these are typically people that work back in the office space, sitting in a cube, and they are an assistant to maybe an executive. They might be an assistant to a couple executives. They might be an executive assistant to a whole department. So they're the assistant to the CIO and the IT director personally, but they are also sort of an admin for the IT department. This is a little bit less chaotic of a front desk. I mean, it's a bit more of a professional type environment, but it's chaotic at a medium level. There's a lot of requests coming in, but it's not, this isn't the type of person that's going to put you on hold in the middle of your sentence when you're talking to them. Now, the important thing to know about executive assistants, these are individuals that usually have a really high level of knowledge, not just about who does what in organizational details. They might actually know a lot about how the organization is run in terms of processes and systems, initiatives and challenges. It's not odd for executive assistants to sit in on meetings that for executives or departmental meetings and to take notes or to manage action items or whatnot. These individuals also might have a level of influence. When the organization's trying to make a decision and they're getting feedback from everybody, they might also ask an executive assistant on what they think based on the meetings that they've attended. Now, from a screening standpoint, they of course don't want to send you on. They don't, like, if you're calling an executive and you get the executive assistant, they also don't want to look bad by sending frivolous calls into the executive. So I mentioned that there's a medium focus on screening, but what I would say with executive assistants, they're almost a little more thorough in their screening, whereas a front desk receptionist might just try to block everybody out that's a salesperson, and an executive assistant might hear you out. They might make more of an educated decision as to who they let in. So you can use that to your advantage. If your pitch is really tight and you communicate effectively how you help and the value you offer, which is a lot of the things that we at SalesScripter help with, you can often, when the executive assistant does their effort of screening, you can often build that relationship, build rapport, communicate effectively, and get through. Treat executive assistants as a great resource. Try to get information from them. Sometimes it's not a bad place if you're calling an executive and you're getting their voicemail and they're not replying to your emails. It's not a bad strategy to call in and say, I'm trying to reach the executive assistant for Mrs. Blank, and maybe meaning the executive, and try to actually call the executive assistant. You can try to build that relationship and gain some of that knowledge. Maybe ask for advice on how to work with the executive that they support. The last type of gatekeeper is one that's very frustrating and becoming more and more common, and it is the automated phone tree auto attendant. And these are the systems that you call into, and they're getting more advanced. I mean, now sometimes they work really well with verbal text, but they're the ones that say, hey, who are you trying to reach? Tell us the extension, what department. The bad thing about automated phone trees is, depending on how cumbersome they are, it can be very time consuming for you to go between the time the system answers your call and by time you go through the process to get routed to the person you're trying to reach. That can sometimes be a lengthy process in terms of time. And if you've done any phone prospecting, you know that you can reach voicemail a lot for a prospect. So if it takes you a long time to get through that process in order to get someone's voicemail, and you're going through that time and time again, sometimes if you have a large number of accounts and contacts to call, I'll scratch a prospect off my list if I have to spend a lot of time dealing with an auto attendant. So, but some things that you can do. I mean, you probably want to just try to get to a human body as soon as you can. So, you're trying to either get to an extension, or pressing 0 or 1, or just trying to get to a live body is the best thing to do with those.